over here, counselor. He's not up at the dais today. Over here, counselor. He's not up at the dais. Hello, would you like to suspend testimony? If you change your mind, I just want to fill out the sheet for testimony.
Oh, okay.
If you change your mind, I just want to fill out the sheet for
They're yours. Oh, okay.
If you change your mind.
They're yours. Oh.
Okay, good evening, Commission. It is 6 o'clock, and I just want to make sure all of the commissioners have their microphones on. I just want to remind you to speak into the microphone when you do have comments. I also want to remind everybody that we are recording and live streaming.
Good evening. It is Wednesday, September 17th at 6:04 p.m. and we call this meeting to order. Megan, will you mind doing roll call?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner John Marshall. We have Vice Chair Seth Clark serving as chair in the absence of our chair. Commissioner Jerry Bainey is present and Commissioner Marissa Doyle is present. We also have Commissioner William Wood is present on Zoom. We also have Council Liaison John Lehman, as well as the app and their team for the site review.
Thank you. Okay, for tonight's evening, we're going to start off with public comment if anybody wishes to do so. And then the commissioner business is a site design review for the greenhouse. That's a public hearing, followed by a second public hearing, which is a zone code amendment, CFEC compliance. And then the last bit of business is planning commission vacancies, approval of minutes from the last meeting. And then Megan will lead us with updates and future agenda items, and then we can adjourn. So is there any public comment this evening?
No one has signed up and we have not received any written testimony.
Then moving on, we're going to go ahead and open up not open the public hearing, but we're going to do the public hearing for SR 01-25, the greenhouse site design review. See, the owners of the building would be Alan Wells, Mark Mazzetta, and Marissa Doyle Architecture and Design Company. They're the applicants. File number SR-01-25. It's a request for a site design review. And the applicable criteria, Coburg Zoning Ordinance A-200-L, Article 7, Section C, Central Business District, Section K, Downtown Overlay District, Article 8, Supplementary District Regulations, Article 9, Special Districts, Article 10, Section D, Type 3 Procedure, Article 11, Land Use Review and Site Design Review, and the Coburg Comprehensive Plan. With that, we open the public hearing. Are there any of the planning commissioners that have a conflict of interest, an ex parte contact, or whether there are any reasons they believe they should not participate in the decision-making process?
That would be me.
All right, thank you, Melissa. I think at this point you would move over to that side of the.
Why, what my,
Do you have an actual conflict?
what it is, yeah. So my conflict of interest is I'm the architect on the Coburg Greenhouse. So I'm part of the applicant team. I'm the one that helped them prepare the site and review for this meeting, so I shall take my seat over there.
Okay, an audience, do you wish to challenge the impartiality of any commissioners?
No.
Fair enough. So explaining to the audience the regulations, testimony and evidence shall concern the approval criteria described in the staff report or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or land use regulations that the person testifying believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient detail to give the hearing body and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue means that no appeal may be made to the State Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Anyone in the audience may request that the record be held open for 1 week. They may also ask that the hearing be continued, although it is discretionary with the Planning Commission. Planning Commission decisions may be appealed to the City Council within 14 days of the Planning Commission decision being made out as a notice of decision. The order of the business we will follow in conducting the hearing will be a staff report, correspondence, testimony, first with an applicant's testimony, those in support, a neutral, and those in opposition, followed by a staff response if needed, questions for the planning commission, and then we will close the public hearing and deliberate. At this point, Megan, may you present us with the staff report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I also apologize to our commission that the front television is not working, and unfortunately you will have to turn. And if you would prefer to come sit or move your chair, that's great. So tonight I will give you a brief overview of the proposal. We will talk about the site and conditions that are recommended and outline some decisions for the Planning Commission to consider. The proposal is unique and staff have not discovered. Subject property is zoned Central Business District and is within the architecturally controlled area, historic and downtown district overlays, and the comprehensive plan map designation of Central Business District. The subject property has existing access from West Mackenzie Street and frontage on North Willamette. The subject property abuts tax lots 3,500, 3,400, and 3,800. All of which are zoned Central Business District. The subject property is presently a food truck south of the Coburg in mixed-use development. This proposed project replaces the existing food truck plaza, which was a site review from 2022 SR 0422. Replaces the existing food truck plaza with a permanent structure known as the Coburg Greenhouse, a small-scale, year-round food service destination designed to accommodate local culinary vendors in a shared-use environment. 2 food trucks are to remain on site in addition to the 2 commercial kitchen spaces, providing a potential total of 4 food vendor spaces. The proposed project acts as the next phase and permanent structure for the previous site review that was approved by Planning Commission in 2022. While a shared food vendor space is not specifically listed in the permitted uses, staff have determined that the proposed use fits within the permitted uses of the zoning designation as a combination of personal services, retail, and mobile food carts, all of which are permitted principal uses in the underlying zoning designation. Food carts will be required to obtain Type 1 approval subject to the standards of Article 8, Section N. Staff will review the applications for compliance with these standards upon Type 1 permit submittal. And to ensure the mobile food vending standards are met, staff recommend this as a condition of approval.
Excuse me, just a second. Is there some way that the TV can be plugged in for?
Unfortunately, the TV is broken.
The camera together? I don't know if William Wood can see us.
William, can you see?
I can see what you're showing on the slides and I can see the other counselors.
Okay.
So I'm pretty comfortable with what I'm looking at.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Sorry, I just got a text from Sammy and she says TV needs to be plugged in, so I just
Oh,
don't know. Sorry to interrupt, but okay. I will. Sorry.
okie dokie. Where were we now? Hello, folks. Would you like to? Excellent. Okay. All right. So the subject property is located within the downtown district overlay and is subject to the requirements of the form-based code. All setback requirements are met, including the 6-foot maximum from the front property line, also known as the required build line. Height and parking location requirements are also met. Parking lot design, landscaping, and stormwater management are existing and were designed to accommodate development of the subject property. The fenestration requirement is also met at 53%. The proposal meets building standards with features such as increased fenestration on the building facade facing Willamette, entry oriented towards Willamette Street, decorative doors, transoms, and window trim, large overhead operable windows, a roof cupola, rear wall articulation, pedestrian weather protection over a front porch with a pedestrian walkway built to the public right-of-way or sidewalk. The proposed use will provide goods and services to the public as associated with service, commercial, and retail use. Any special events such as entertainment or seasonal markets will obtain separate city approval as required. Staff have laid out 4 conditions of approval that were also contained within the staff report. The first is that all food trucks must obtain the type 1 land use approval for mobile food vending prior to operation. Condition of approval number 2, that prior to the commencement of construction activities, the applicant shall submit for and obtain the required building permits. Condition of approval number 3, that future sign proposals will obtain the sign permit and comply with sign ordinance A-155. And number 4, that the applicant must demonstrate a shared septic tank agreement prior to building permit issuance. Planning Commission has multiple options this evening. Staff does recommend approval based on the findings and conditions contained in the staff report. Make a motion to approve the request based off of the staff report and findings. They may make a motion to deny based off of findings to be prepared, but Planning Commission would need to direct staff as to the basis for the denial. And Planning Commission can also make a motion to approve with amended findings or additional conditions of approval. Planning Commission would direct staff on what changes are to be made. And that is staff's presentation for the site review this evening.
Thank you. All right, have we received any correspondence on this matter?
We have not received any correspondence, nor do we have anyone signed up. Would the applicant like to present?
A whole lot to say that Megan hasn't already said.
Time, there we go. Also, will you state your name and?
Oh, sorry. My name is Alan Wells. I'm one of the applicants. Again, not a whole lot to say that Megan hasn't already said. This is obviously 3 years in coming, but we are looking to do a more permanent structure and have a shared kitchen facility for 2 of our food vendors, Lino's, Chef Lino's, and Pete's Meats. And then we'll have 2 food trucks outside, the Thai food truck who's already there. And then we have a new food truck coming in as of October 1st, which is a El Salvador food truck. So, yeah, it's been a good run with 3 different tents, but it's time to do something more permanent. So, although this isn't the greenhouse, I think that we had originally intended, I think this is a better long-term solution, and it's going to be I think it's going to be very good for the community. We will host music there. We will, of course, host games and that kind of thing, but it's, yeah, we're excited to get this underway.
Thank you. All right, we'll start the order of opponents. Others supporting the application that wish to speak?
We have not received any testimony, nor do we have anyone signed up.
Okay. So I assume that goes for both neutral and in opposition as well?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Skip the rebuttal and, I guess at this point, we're going to close the public testimony portion of the public hearing. Do any members of the planning commission have any questions regarding clarification of the testimony to this point?
Yes, Megan, just a clarification, traffic impact study was not required. Why?
This use did not trigger the need for a traffic impact study.
We know what triggers it, please?
What's that?
What triggers a traffic impact study?
Certain uses and also, I'm not exactly sure of each criteria that triggers a traffic impact analysis. But this use is, not more intense than the existing use.
Okay.
Which is one of the reasons.
Right.
But typically there are a couple of different items in the zoning code that speak to when a DIA is required, and with this instance, it was not. We did send the application materials,
To Lane County Transportation Planning for review, as North Willamette is their jurisdiction, and they did not have further comments other than the informational items that are included in the staff report, which were limited to requiring a facilities permit for new right of
they did not request a TIA.
One other question on signage. I know that was addressed in the staff report and applicant's review regarding the greenhouse itself. I'm curious about the individual vendor signs and whether or not, are they subject to the same requirements, and how will that be enforced?
Yes, all signs are subject to the sign ordinance A-155.
I have a question. One of the conditions of approval is that all food trucks must obtain a type 1 land use approval. Is that specific to the 2 food trucks that will remain on the side, or is that all 4 spaces?
That would be specific to the 2 that will not be inside of the building, but
Okay.
the 2 that remain in a mobile food vending category.
Okay.
Particularly for any new vendors that would come in. So I think that the applicant had mentioned Bao Tai. They have already received their mobile food vending approval.
Excellent. I wasn't sure if we were articulating that the 2 spaces inside the building were quote unquote mobile, and
No, I did. That was not interpreted that way.
okay, thank you.
My question in my head was answered. I'm pleased to know that the Thai restaurant is going to be anchored in the building. Thank you.
All right. Are there any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Wood, do you have anything you'd like to add to this conversation?
I have no questions, and we'll move to move that we approve.
All right. Well, if there are no further questions, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing. It is 6:22 p.m. All right, we're on to commissioner deliberations. Discussion.
Question. Just quickly, is this a recommendation, or do we approve it?
This is a quasi-judicial decision that we're making here.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I've been up close and personal with the whole development of that space over there. And I had through this got to see kind of the renderings of what the architectural thing, and the biggest concern to me was how it was going to fit in with the facade of the downtown corridor. And I think they've done a great job at executing that. So that makes me happy. And yeah, otherwise I don't really have any objections to this at all. I think it's a great development and can really beautify the city.
I can, excuse me, I can echo your thoughts too. I'm pleased to see it more permanent structure being put in. I think that, fills the space up much better. I think as far as the streetscape building there is better than the tents. So, I'm pleased with moving ahead with this. I think, I had a couple of questions though in the findings. Do that now. Okay,
Yeah, if they're applicable, please.
right, yeah. And this one was always confusing to me, but the uses that create odor, dust, smoke, noise, and vibration. I don't know how you can rent a cooking facility and not have some odor and smoke or whatever that would do that. And then the finding, Megan, you had down as a criterion satisfied, and so if you could explain what the difference between criterion met and criteria satisfied is for me.
That's a really great question. I think satisfied is when something is just a little less concrete, such as you described. I think there's kind of a threshold because some cooking will create some odor, and it is likely to be contained within the property, but it's not something that we can measure and quantitatively point to say that is met. So I think just the subjectivity around it led me to call that satisfied versus met. It's also something that is a little bit more projected into the future. And so based on what we have available to us right now, that's very difficult to determine. But I do think it's satisfying the criteria's intention.
Thank you.
No more comments. Commissioner Wood, do you have any comments to add to this portion?
I have no comments. Thank you.
All right, does somebody want to make a motion?
Sure. I move that we recommend, or excuse me, approve the greenhouse site review as submitted by the applicant and based upon the findings in the staff report and with satisfaction of the conditions as listed by staff.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? All right. I believe that's a done deal for there. And we can move on with commissioner business on to PA-01- or PA-01-25 public hearing for the zoning code amendments.
When's the shovel begin?
Soon. All right. Okay, so. All right, I opened the public hearing for PA-01-25 at 6:27 PM. This is, the city of Coburg initiated the process, file number PA-01-25. The proposal is for zoning code amendments to comply with the state's climate-friendly and equitable communities rulemaking, including parking reform and walkable design standards. Zoning code text amendments are a type 4 procedure for decision-making. Planning Commission will make a recommendation to City Council and City Council will make final decision. And Megan, may we have the staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to make sure that everyone saw that there has been additional material provided for tonight's meeting. There are hard copies available for you here and also electronic copies in your inbox. They are, the document is just a summary of all of the changes that were proposed within the zoning code document that was in the meeting. A little more condensed and easier to follow version of the proposed changes. So, the planning commission has been leading up to this code amendment project for a number of months now. As you all likely recall, we had LCOG do a code audit project, and the consultant audited our existing regulations against the walkable design standard model code that was developed by DLCD. So Planning Commission has seen those changes and provided feedback on those changes. Reform will largely eliminate parking minimums for the entire city. It also establishes some parking lot design standards as well as parking maximum, which we will get into at the very end. These code amendments, a very minor amount. So I will ask the commission, I have the table that I shared with you ready to pull up. Would the commission like to go through each individual proposed change?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, okay, excellent. Okay, thank you for bearing. I just switched these documents over. Okay. So starting on the first page of the matrix document, the first change that is proposed is in the traditional residential district, and it pertains to driveway limitations within the traditional residential district. Currently, which is that second column there, the current code language. Currently, a single driveway cannot be used by more than one dwelling, and the exception to that is that a driveway can be used to serve one dwelling in addition to an approved accessory dwelling unit. The added change that you see in the proposed amendments column on the right side is that there would be an added exception that a duplex may also share a driveway. The next one is also within.
Does one driveway should be allowed for each unit of the duplex? Is that?
One driveway is already allowed for each duplex unit, and this would be allowing 2 units to share one driveway.
Got it.
Okay, the next section is also within the traditional residential district, and it is regarding setback requirements. So the existing standard is that there is a minimum front setback in the residential district of 15 feet. You may recall this was Planning Commission's direction to change that to range of 20. a maximum. But the providing that range just provided a little bit more flexibility and also it more in line with existing. The next one is a simple strikeout. Oh, no, one ahead of myself. We also added to that section at the Planning Commission's request that front porches may count towards meeting that setback requirement. So it wouldn't necessarily need to be the front facade of the dwelling itself, but that front porch foundation could count towards meeting that to provide even greater flexibility. The next one is a simple strikeout related to removing requirements for parking. So that's just a strikeout to remove the word required. Followed by that was a simple spacing. You can hardly tell, but there was just an added sub bullet provided under commercial and service 1. It should be 1 and 2 and just 1. The one following that also is eliminating language talking about requirements as well as on that page. The top item on this page is also striking out the parking requirements, and the addition there is that parking lot landscaping must be done in coordination with local electric utility, including pre-design, design, building, and maintenance phases. That is language direct from the parking that needs to be included. So this next, quite a few of these next ones are all eliminating parking minimum requirements. So you could see just some language changes, changing from required to provided. The parking calculation required table removed in its entirety. Calculations for minimum parking, reductions and exceptions are also being eliminated. I believe that that is all for the next couple of pages until we get to there's one that starts with a page 5 of the document, and it adds that parking for commercial industrial development with more than 50 parking. Also that there can be a joint use of parking facilities established between 2 different property owners, and that city approval is not required for the establishment of that agreement. And that any joint use agreements that were established to comply with previous required off-street parking prior to the effective date of this ordinance may be terminated and also does not require approval. So following that, we are looking at standards for the redevelopment of off-street parking, which is also a requirement of ORS that lays out a process for converting off-street parking into different uses such as pedestrian-oriented, transit-oriented facilities, bus stops, bus shelters, or similar facilities. The one underneath that is for electric vehicle charging requirements, mostly related to multi-family. Is that conduit for the new parking areas are provided.
The existing buildings are grandfathered in.
That's correct. This would only apply to new parking lot
Yeah, okay.
development.
Existing parking, um, that can now be redeveloped into something different? Is that what it says?
Or, off-street parking, sounds like.
But just for example, the current parking behind or the greenhouse, proposed greenhouse, all that parking in there could be eliminated and something else put in there, since that's off-street parking.
Well, the standard that I was just reading to was specific to other transportation facilities. It spoke bicycle,
Yeah.
stop, bus shelter.
Yeah.
Types of amenities. But in theory, if the owner of that property decided that they no longer wanted to have parking in its current location, then they, assuming they were going to meet all of the other requirements of
So that parking could be eliminated.
In theory. But it would, it would need to meet all the other
other regulations.
So those particular parking that's currently being used, they would start using what public right of ways that are available to them elsewhere, such as down the residential streets and around the park. Correct?
That is all public right of way and available parking. Yes. Okay, anything else on the parking before we move on to talk a little bit more about the design standards?
Yeah, just real quick. When coming from someone that designs this stuff, so when an owner usually they're gonna want to have parking anyways. So it's just that in the past, is for example, take Winco, for example, when you have a huge can't think, a mercantile like that, they're required to have an abundance of parking over the amount of what is actually needed. So they have enough parkings for say like the day before Christmas and everybody's out shopping. So half the time that parking lot is empty. So that's where they get the maximum parking requirements for in the past on the codes. So this is just changing that codes to make it more like the parking that is actually used on a daily basis. They don't have all that expansive asphalt wasted space. That wasted space then can be used for something else. That asphalt could then be used for better usage of, say another building, another shared bicycle or transit stop or whatever. Just gives that space a different use instead of not being used at all. That's the whole point of the whole parking lot redesign development and the whole code sections.
Well, obviously, my concern is the fact that by eliminating parking requirements for commercial or retail entities, they would be able they're saying they're gonna be able to take advantage of public right of way to park in for their particular establishment, which means, at least in our city, which means taking up parking spaces around our park or down our residential streets. To me, that's a concern.
A lot of times
We see that happening.
well, usually on the events during the summers or when there's the antique fair, they're always up and down the street. There's nowhere else from the park. But on a daily basis, they're rarely up and down the streets. They're always in their lots. And business owners know that if they provide parking, they have to provide parking if they're gonna want to have customers. There's no customer is gonna wanna walk like 5 blocks down the road to get to the restaurant. After you eat all that food, you're not gonna wanna walk that 5 blocks back to your
Rain.
car. Or in the rain, or when you're carrying all your leftovers and a crying baby or whatever, you're not gonna walk that far. You're gonna wanna be parked as close as you can to that door.
Yeah, I would argue, I mean, as a restaurateur that is dependent on turnover, thus a lot of traffic. While I appreciate the pedestrian friendliness of this town, I am very dependent on having a parking lot. If that was not made available to me, I probably wouldn't have signed a lease.
So, and like a lot of building owners know that, and so they're not gonna do away
Yeah.
with the whole parking lot, knowing that that is a desirement of getting a tenant for their building. Provide that parking.
Yeah. I echo your concern though. I mean, this all makes sense to me, but at the same time, I mean, it's coming from the perspective of something that's walkable. So if, people have to park far, then that forces them to walk, I guess. Like I don't know how I feel about it. But I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense also, and that's definitely a different perspective. We continue?
Excellent. I will move on. Okay, so the next set, starting with Article 8, our supplemental district regulations. This is on page 7 of the document. This first couple address block size. Currently, the maximum block length allowed in the zoning code is 600 feet. This will reduce it to 500 feet and also require that if the block length does exceed 350 feet, that a pedestrian and bicycle access way is required. The second item under that section is allowing or adding a adding a guideline that in where alleys are already required to be provided in commercial and industrial districts, that in residential districts, those should include alleys to allow the use of rear-loaded garages and accessory dwelling units and to provide access for utility and garbage services when feasible. So that is still allowing some flexibility, but encouraging that type of design within the residential as well. Following that, we go to the design standards and guidelines themselves. Some additional pedestrian connections are required in commercial and industrial uses. A requirement for entrances that are open to the public to remain open during business hours. The next one also kind of echoes pedestrian facilities. In addition to connecting to the public right of way, they must connect to other buildings in the parking lot, bicycle parking, common outdoor areas as applicable. The next word is looking at drive-through facilities. The first one is simply adding parking stalls to the list of queuing areas that shall not be obstructed by drive-through or shall not be obstructed by drive-through traffic. So just including parking list, as well as adding standards for drive-through facilities to provide a walk-up service area. So that would be a requirement. The next is a Article X. It's our type of review procedures. This is a table that's provided in the zoning code. And this is just some simple cleanup and housekeeping items, just correcting the names and condensing some of the processes to be a little bit more accurate. On the next page, the proposed amendment is to remove the application submittal requirement for applicants to include a set of pre-stamped, pre-addressed envelopes for the real property owners of record who receive notice as part of the application. This is something that the city prepares, and so it is more in line to have the city take on that task for which the city is responsible for. So we are removing that requirement of application materials for a type 3 process. The following change is another simple housekeeping item that is just providing a more accurate reference to the IAMP document instead of Article 10. It is not located in Article 10. And then following that are several new definitions that accompany many of the design standards that we have discussed. So there is a new definition for accessible, which there was no prior definition for. Same with access way, there was no prior definition for. There is a revised definition for an alley. There's also a definition provided for block length, as well as drive-through facility, main entrance, pedestrian facility, stacking lane, and walkway. There is one item that was not included in the packet that has come to our attention to be included as part of the parking reform, and that is to establish parking maximums for the downtown area. And so that is the last item that is proposed and will be included. And so that reads that the maximum number of off-street parking spaces within the central business district be 1.5 spaces for a studio residential unit, 2 spaces for 1-bedroom or greater units, 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of total floor area allocated to commercial and retail uses, except eating and drinking, entertainment, and/or commercial recreational uses. 8 spaces per 1,000 square feet of total floor area allocated to eating and drinking and entertainment uses. So that's providing a larger maximum for eating and drinking and entertainment establishments. And 1 space per 4 seats or occupants, or 5 spaces per 1,000 square feet of parcel land area allocated to commercial recreation uses. So that's a new addition to the proposed amendments.
What's the purpose of that?
Anyone in particular, or the just to limit the amount of parking? So I think speaking back to Commissioner Doyle's point, I don't know that staff thinks that this foresees this as an issue in our downtown, because our downtown is small and we have relatively small parcel sizes, but in larger developments, you start to see really, really large parking lots. And this is a tool that the state has required for cities and counties to be able to control that amount of parking.
Megan, may I ask a question?
I think so.
if you just have one studio unit, what constitutes a half parking space?
I think there is some language that talks about how to do the rounding. But that is a great question. I'll put the notes in that for clarification.
Did you say these are state requirement more or less?
Are you speaking specifically to the maximums?
Yes, sorry.
So the state requires that cities establish maximums for specific locations such as the downtown, but the state does not provide what those numbers must be. So they provide guidance as a starting point, which is what staff used to develop the language that you're seeing here. But planning commission does have some flexibility if there is preference to see changes to those numbers.
Thank you.
Does that conclude the staff report? I have one more slide for you just to go over the options, which is very public hearing. You all can't see it anyway. Planning commission can make a motion to adopt a recommendation. So planning commission does not make the final decision on this type 4 procedure. Planning commission will make a recommendation to city council. City council will make the final decision. Planning commission can make a motion to adopt a recommendation to approve as presented, approve with modifications, approve with conditions, or deny. That concludes the staff report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan. Now we move on to the public testimony. This is an order of operation, but there's one public, maybe. Is there any public testimony?
We have not received any testimony.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's skip through that. And right, and I believe this is where we closed the public hearing, right? Or, yeah. Okay, and it is 6:56 p.m. And we are on to commissioner deliberations. And what do everybody think about all this? Yes, sir.
I have a question, just back to the maximum number again, the approval we just passed for the greenhouse project. How would that apply?
I'm really glad that you, this is something that I meant to mention. A lot of these climate friendly and equitable community requirements are very in line with Coburg's current efforts and land use regulations and vision and intention for future development. Our central business district has not had a parking minimum for as long as I have been here, as long as I am aware of. And so a requirement to establish a parking minimum. So the Coburg Inn development, I'm not sure about when it was built, but I don't know that that was required. That was market-based parking. And same for the existing food truck plaza, as well as the greenhouse that we just approved. So it will be up to the applicant and the developer determine how much parking to include in the proposal.
From my best estimates on the Coburg Inn, based on 8 residential units that I think are studios, maybe 1 bedroom. I don't know. And then the commercial spaces, you're looking at about a max of 31 parking units. And I don't think there's on that particular zone or, tax lot, I don't believe there are 31 spaces. So, I mean, they're well within the maximum.
I see now.
I see. No, I don't think I understood your question correctly.
Did we get you the
No.
answer you needed?
No, yeah,
Okay.
that's, thank you.
And I want to confirm, you stated that the minimum is reduced to 0 citywide and the maximum applies to only the downtown overlay?
That is correct. The central business district.
Yeah, oh, sorry, yes.
Yes.
Thank you, okay.
Yes.
I do have a couple, I don't know, one's a Scrivener error. Or maybe what, it would be, let's see, page, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, page 7. It would be the third block of text down. The addition to the text states, in residential district blocks should include alleys to allow the use, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In my opinion, there should be a comma after the word districts before the word blocks. It just reads more clearly, I think. And then, addition to that, on the second to last page there, it'd be the top block of text was all scratched except for the beginning Article B, submittal information. When a type 3 applicant is required, it shall. And then everything else has been struck. Should we leave that in there or should that be struck out also?
I think this was an error on my behalf. So the submittal information, the way that it actually reads in the entirety of the document says submittal application. When a type the application is required, it shall. And then I skipped to number 4, which is the one that we're getting rid of. But there are 3 more in the middle that say like
Yeah.
include the required fee.
Okay.
If you think that for clarity that should be just included in the matrix, but that is
How
how
it-
it reads in the code.
In the zoning code document.
Yeah, that's what I thought that might be the case. I
Yes.
just wanted clarification.
Yes.
The last thing that I just want to add to this this thought is I've been to a number of real small towns. I think of things like Bainbridge Island or Sonoma, California, that have a pretty high standard for aesthetic and very minimal parking requirements. I would say that as somebody driving a car through those towns, it can be a little flustering. But as a pedestrian in any one of those towns, I'm a big fan of not having massive parking lots and wide open space. I like the tight, close corridors, allowing me to get from, boutique to restaurant to coffee shop to wherever I'm in that town for. I think that kind of applying this and bringing those parking requirements down to a minimum is similarly in line to the feel of those more recognized spaces. Any other comments? Commissioner Wood, do you have a comment over there?
I don't have a comment.
No.
I have a question for staff. On alleys. Is it, are they allowed as a secondary access to property in regards to like a secondary home? In other words, if there's lot line adjustment, we have big lots in Coburg that are not accessible except by the alley. Are those alleys, can they be used for access to those properties? Build a home or add a home?
To be the only access, the primary access?
Yeah.
cannot do the
Primary
access
access.
for a new lot because for new lot creation, there needs to be access to a private street or access to a public street or through private easement. For the
But an alley would not be acceptable.
not in the existing language, but with this change, with the new definition of an alley,
Yes.
it speaks to, when no other access is available,
Oh.
the alley may serve as the primary.
Okay. What I was curious about. Thanks.
Before we make a motion, I wanted to confirm the Scrivener error that I brought up with. We want that, would that be a motion to approve as amended? Or is that?
I think that's a good way to do it. Yes.
Can I just ask a question? On the, what is around the front of the page of the garage setbacks? Just curiosity, how do they get with the 5 feet? Setback a minimum of 5 feet from the longest wall of the front facade of the house.
Hmm.
It just seems like an arbitrary number.
I am not familiar with the history of
That
specific number. That's something that's been a design standard requirement.
my time and my experience with the zoning code. The intention, would be to just prevent that snout house look
And
Yeah.
keeping,
the garage.
Yeah, I get
not
that,
being the primary foot. But why five?
but why 5
I
instead
don't
of
know. I don't
4?
know that.
Because plywood sheets are 4 feet, and so when you have 5 feet, you're using another sheet of plywood, and so you have like that extra 3 feet of, it could just end up as waste. So if you make it 4 feet, it's just one sheet of plywood that goes there, and there's no extra waste. Or no extra cut from a plywood. It's just, to use them as, I don't know, I go by numbers of 4 feet, knowing that plywood is 4 feet, so that you don't have that extra waste and they don't end up in the landfill. Just my thought. I don't know.
I do not have an answer or the history of
Of where that 5
of
feet
where that
comes from.
why it's 5, not 4.
4.
Mhm.
Okay.
I've seen 5 a couple other places in the code. I know we have a requirement for porch width that's also 5 feet. So maybe it just felt
No.
clean. I'm not sure.
From a non-construction person, it's a
Yep.
easy number. That's a really valid point.
They can have another comment.
Mhm.
Back to the alley question, we all know that we have alleys that are in very poor shape and undeveloped. If you were using an alley for primary access to an ADU or to a resident, are there any requirements to upgrade the alleys to a certain standard?
I do not know the answer to that, but that is a fantastic question. And something I will definitely look into for our council work session. If it were the entrance for a primary dwelling, I
There his responsibility that would
be in how it would play out.
Maybe even removing a fence that blocks the alley.
What's that?
Maybe even removing a fence that blocks the alley. One particular case.
Marissa, are you suggesting that we should change that from 5 to 4 feet, or is that just more rhetorical?
I don't know, I kind of would want to see that change from
And I say now is the time to do it and get it all.
4, just because it seems like it could help with a lot of the ways. Yeah, because most builders are gonna build to the minimum, not the maximum.
Do any of the commissioners see an objection to 4 feet? Sounds great. Let's add that as a condition of approval, I guess. I don't. Or,
That in the same category as the Scrivener's and make a little list of amendments here. And so far I have the Scrivener's area that you called out, Commissioner Clark. The change to, am I hearing the change to 4 feet for the garage
I
setback?
think that's, I mean, yeah.
Were there any other proposed amendments from the commission?
I'll make a motion to remove to approve. What is this? PA 01-25, yes.
I don't think the chair can make the motion.
Oh, is that the case?
That is correct. I also think we need to close the hearing first
I'm sorry,
before.
I thought we closed the hearing and we were doing deliberate. Okay, well, let's officially close the hearing.
Okay. Oh,
Uh,
we did. You're right. At
okay.
6:50, wrote it down.
Okay, thank you.
But yes, thank you. Well,
Yeah,
the chair cannot make a motion.
No, it's not. But yeah, I was unaware of the chair not being able to make.
Right.
All right, fair.
of the
Does
commission.
anybody entertain the idea of making a motion?
I make a motion that we approve EA 1-25 zone code amendment.
I think this is clarify the recommendation. Is that correct?
Yes. We are adopting a recommendation to the city council.
That's what you, as amended.
As amended,
Okay. That was Commissioner Baney first.
yes.
We have a second. I'll second it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I believe that was unanimous.
Who was in second?
John? Yes.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to planning commission vacancies.
May I make a point of order?
I'm okay with that.
I may be wrong, but I thought the chair made a motion earlier in the evening.
I did not. He made a motion. I seconded. I think that's. Thank you.
Anything else? Are we ready to move on to the vacancies topic?
I believe so, yes. Thank you.
Great, thank
You.
you.
There are currently 3 commissioners whose terms will be expiring at the end of October. Commissioner William Wood and Commissioner Jerry Baney have expressed that they would like to serve another term. Commissioner Clark has respectfully expressed that he will not be serving another term at this time. So per the bylaws of the Planning Commission, we need a motion of the majority of the Planning Commission, which I will put up on the screen. So the suggested commission would
reappoint Commissioners Daney and
So move.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Always.
All right, that concludes Commissioner business, and we are on to approval of minutes. Did anybody get a chance to look at the minutes from the
We
previous?
will actually be deferring that item because the minute included
Okay, it wasn't just me then.
defer.
Fair enough. Let's move on to updates and future agenda items.
This is the majority of the work that was anticipated for planning commission for the foreseeable future. I don't have any pending land use applications at this time that will be anticipated.
For the October meeting. I cannot off the top of my head think of a lot of pertinent updates for you all, but if there is anything that you have questions about, I'm happy to answer them. There are also some copies, I believe, of the city administration report on your way out that does have some helpful updates for the month.
Something came up this evening actually, regarding, smells, I guess, right? Talking about a restaurant, and I don't know if that's something that a commission would consider dissecting a little bit more. I definitely recognize, afterburners or restaurants can put out a smell, so maybe if it's a changing language in the code, or, it'd be like noxious smells or something. I don't know. It may be worth exploring, it may not be, but as far as a future agenda item.
I kind of regard the smells as a selling point more than anything. I realize you don't want a noxious smell, but a lot of times, I mean, the reason I've stopped at food trucks is because they smell good.
Yeah, and I agree with you too. That's why I was thinking perhaps a change of language, to distinguish or differentiate the idea of an enticing smell, versus an obnoxious smell. Thinking like, I think um, maybe the reason that was in the code to begin with is thinking about light industrial stuff and
Right.
spray paints and some of the things that might be of an issue over on Industrial Way, which is entirely different than, waffle cones or hamburgers. So, I don't know. It to me, it just kind of rang a bell this evening. I just wanted to bring it to the commission as food for thought.
A lot of the industrial type odor times covered. Well, you kind of fall into a different category.
I think if that concludes everything, there's no other comments, we can adjourn this.
Aye.
Yes, sir.
Noxious smell, but noxious amount of black smoke.
Mhm.
That would include the train of thought.
Again, that goes back to air quality issue. Megan's right, that have to go back and take a look at what DEQ standards might be for emissions, and whether or not the city of Coburg can really establish any emissions, or in fact have the ability to measure emissions just other than visual. Would be a little tough. Probably getting ourselves into a, I think it's a real mess, our baby too.
Wonder how you quantify obnoxious smell.
Exactly. Well, yeah, then you go measure and you have parts per million, et cetera, et cetera. Granted, and then the other thing would be is greasy fried chicken and obnoxious smell versus.
If you're a vegetarian or not.
hamburger. Well, God, I like the greasy fried chicken.
Now, speaking of smoke, I mean, is there any, what if you were to have instead of from a commercial perspective, a backyard barbecue or fireplace, and your neighbor is always downwind from the said fireplace? If they're choking on smoke every night, they're gonna be a little offended if they do or do they not have, ground to stand on to argue against that. And maybe that sort of thing could also be applied to smoke produced by commercial space.
Like, and people, held 2 doors down. It could be acted upon, so I think it's covered in different ways under the city ordinance.
That may be covered under that nuisance ordinance. I know I've seen, LaRapa, the Lane Regional Air Protection Agency is typically the agency that I've seen handle those type of air quality.
Yeah.
complaints And issues.
All right. I'd like to adjourn this meeting. It is 7:20 PM.
Thank you all.
Thank you.